are joined by Dr. Arif Ismail, who's the head of National Payment System Department at the South African Reserve Bank. Thank you so much for your time, Doctor.
Of course.
We do appreciate
it. It's Arif.
You have to be respectful. So the South African Reserve Bank has also launched its own payments ecosystem modernization PEM program. And I want to know how this specific program is going to change things for the ordinary South African to transact.
Yeah, of course. So, do you know much about the program?
Maybe tell us a little bit about
it.
Right,
let me tell you. So, there's 3 key products. The first one is going to sound a bit technical, but we're going to modernize our RTGS system. Now, whenever I say that, people go, oh, wow, that sounds really technical. But the real-time gross settlement system is a core engine in the economy. All our transactions get settled in it. And I'm going to shock you, Heidi. Okay, 584 billion rand gets settled every single day in that system.
Every day?
Every single day. So we churn the GDP in that system every 12 days. Now, this is the heart of our economy. So all retail payment systems, they aggregate at the end of the day, all the payment instructions, no money has moved. Okay, and the switch, paying as an example, will submit a file to the central bank and say, this bank owes that bank money. Okay, and that's the engine of the economy to move money around. Now that engine has served us for the last 30 years. It is functionally rich, probably one of the best in the world, but technically we're still on COBOL and mainframe and so on. So it needs a technological upgrade. So one of the first things the PEM is going to do is go for the heart of the payment system and modernize that. Does that make sense? Mm. And very similarly to India, okay, and some of the other countries like Europe, we're going to think about building an architecture that we called a unified payments platform that accommodates both this high-value payment system as well as retail payment systems, like card and electronic funds transfer, and debit orders, and so on. The benefit of that would be that you benefit from the common technology stack, common architecture stack, and of course, the same resources. That's project number 1, product number 1. Product number 2 speaks more directly to the question that you asked. How does the man in the street get impacted by the PEM? Yes. The second one is a faster payment system. Now we've got 2 faster payment systems, interestingly, in South Africa. The one was built in 2006. We need to get better at naming these things. We called it RTC, real-time clearing, in 2000. It's a faster payment system, okay? Move money in 60 seconds. It's been around. We're probably the pioneers in the world on faster payment systems, right? But that system has largely served the likes of myself who are in the higher LSMs. It has not served the lower LSMs, okay? Very recently, South Africa has implemented something called PayShap, which is the second faster payment system. Now, beautiful. PayShap is meant to be where I can send you money just knowing your mobile number, okay? I can request a payment from you, and you can push funds to me.
Just with PayShap.
Just with PayShap. Now you can imagine that, like PIPC in Brazil, a faster payment system, even a person who's begging can have a QR code around their neck and say, you don't have to give me cash. You know, usually people come to my window and I go, no, I don't have any cash. Okay, here's my QR code. You can scan it and send. That's how it will impact the man on the street. My plea from the SARB's perspective to the industry is, this is not just about financial inclusion. We know we're in a low-growth economy, right? A low-growth phase. Digitizing payment systems can bring 0.5% to your GDP. Would you like that, Heidi?
Of course.
Of course, okay? Of course, and that's what digitizing payment systems could do. That's 2, okay? The third key product, which will impact the man on the street, is something that we call, again, we need to get better at these acronyms, right? The third thing that we have is something called Digital Financial ID, DFID. And what that simply means is, when you're making a payment today, the way that you identify yourself is through your card and your PIN. It's not you, right? When you're on internet banking, you put in an account number and a password. It's not you. It's a proxy for you. What if we could give you a digital financial ID that is actually you, right? It's your name, your surname, your ID number, your biometric, and that's the third one. Everyone in South Africa will get a digital financial ID, including, controversially, those who may be here, okay, who are undocumented.
You will include them as well.
Absolutely. People
Yes.
transact in cash when they're here. You could get a digital financial ID. You may not, depending on the status of your documentation or lack of documentation, you'll probably be able to transact only to a particular limit as you do with cash.
Why is it so important for you to have this digital identification?
Right. And I'm going to cut, that's why we didn't call it digital ID, right? Because government, the Department of Home Affairs, has to provide the cornerstone credential, name, surname, ID, biometric. We won't own that. We will leverage that. But the reason why it's important, and I'm going to go back to PayShap, is you could couple that with things like your mobile number or your PayShap ID and so on. How do I know your mobile number is the valid mobile number? How do I know your PayShap ID is the valid PayShap ID? Digital financial ID, in technical terms, will provide something called a verified credential. In other words, it's a token of your mobile number that's verified by the person, the entity that's given it to you. You can make that available as a customer to some other entity and say, here's my QR, I'm giving it to you. I select the things that I want to share with you, and you know that I'm good for it. You know that I'm 35 years old, I'm not, okay, by virtue of being able to connect with my digital financial ID.
What about this program helping the unbanked population
Right.
in
Absolutely.
South Africa?
Yeah.
Because that is a big concern,
Absolutely.
and 1 in 5.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So this is an interesting number for you. When we say 1 in 5, right, that's 20%, right? 20%, right? This might stun you. The number of bank accounts in South Africa exceed 95%. Can you believe that? 95%. So
Wow.
So when folks say, we have a large unbanked population, I tend to disagree. However, I'm going to back for you, Heidi, and say, although there is a significant number of bank accounts, okay, I would describe many of the accounts as what I would call a cash and dash strategy. I get paid once a month, once a week. I go and draw all my funds out and I carry on in cash. So whilst the number looks great, I then tend to agree with you that there's probably many, many more people who are using cash, right? So once again, how does this impact the unbanked, this program? Linked to the program is a shift in the framework where banks were the only ones who could provide stores of value like an account. We're going to change that framework from a National Payment System Department perspective. Within the next 3 to 4 weeks, we're going to put out a document called the Authorization Framework for Non-Banks. And this framework will describe how non-banks can come in and provide wallet services. And I'm going to use a quick example. Okay? The extreme example is Alipay and WeChat Pay in China. It accommodates for more than 95% of all payment transactions through wallets. You can book your dentist appointment, you can book your doggy in the doggy parlor, you can make payments as a gift, you can pay at merchants, you can send money to anyone in the country. Okay? They have super apps, okay, in Alipay and WeChat Pay. We want to see the similar kind of thing that impacts all of South Africa. That's how it'll impact the unbanked.
And let's speak about how South Africa needs to move towards a cashless society. Because there's obviously a trust deficit sometimes when it comes to our digital systems. And how are you as SARB trying to build that trust amongst citizens to be cashless and to trust these new ways of banking and the digital platforms that exist?
So this is really important for us. Language matters to the central bank, right? We do not speak of a cashless society. Okay? Cash is actually a liability of the central bank. You get it from an ATM that the bank holds, but it's not a bank liability. It's the central bank's liability. It's our money.
Sure.
Our governor, Khanyago, keeps saying, that he's very proud. His name is on the note, and that gives assurance that this note, is legitimate and so on. We don't speak of a cashless society. What we do speak about is a cash-smart society. In other words, for the poorest of the poor, the only option that you probably have today is cash. We don't want that to be the case. Okay? We want digital payments to reach all. And it has macro benefits, as I described, right? We can contribute 0.5% to the GDP if we get this right. So we want people to have digital payment options. The person on the street, go selling bananas, riding in a taxi, right? I just made the point in one of the sessions. Time is money. Delays mean that you don't have working capital, right? And as a small spaza shop, you can just imagine time is money. You get your money on time, you can use it. That's why digital payments is really, really, really important.
It's funny you speak about time is money and delays. They cause certain issues, because just the other day I actually sent an e-wallet to the car guard because I didn't have cash on me, and I felt so bad because he was looking after 2 cars, and none of us had cash on us, but he was sorted.
Absolutely. Sorted to some extent, right? He would then go and draw those funds out from an ATM or somewhere.
Yes.
He would also, and my understanding is that there's a significant portion that gets taken out as fees.
Yes.
Wouldn't you love to have the car guard receive the thing in an e-wallet and continue to use digital payments on an ongoing basis?
Yeah.
Wherever he pays or she pays, there you go. Right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Let's move over to how many have called SARB's acquisition of Bank Serve Africa a watershed moment for South Africa's payment ecosystem. Could you unpack this and how it's going to change things in the financial system space?
Of course. So it is a watershed moment. And the reason for that is that, usually the SARB, we run, as I said, the real-time gross settlement system, which is the high-value payment system. But we've largely left retail for the last 30, 40, 50 years to the market. We've not intervened, if that's the right language. We believe that, like highways, these infrastructures, like Pay Inc., BankServe, are national payments assets. And we want, like our emerging market peers, like India, we want to build digital public infrastructure. And the SARB are willing to put the money down for this digital public infrastructure. And hence the careful shareholding structure that we've gone to now with Pay Inc. And it's a signal that we're serious about payments. In fact, so serious about payments that we have 3 major strategic focus areas in the bank. One is ensuring safeguarding inflation and effective monetary policy. Second, financial stability. Guess which is the third? Payments and digital public infrastructure. Making payments available to all. So this is a watershed moment. The SARB are not abdicating its responsibility. We're coming closer to work with the market to make sure that the highways are built so that our people can get access to digital payments.
I want to go back to the point that you made about, this digital ID being rolled out, and obviously working hand in hand with Home Affairs. It's great, but there are also risks and challenges, or some resistance with people speaking about how this could lead to new forms of surveillance as well as exclusion.
Right. And my response to that would be, this is not the intention. The intention is to protect privacy. In other words, you would be the owner of the wallet, Heidi, and who you choose to share which credentials with is up to you. The choice is yours. Wouldn't that be beautiful?
Of course. You always have a choice.
Absolutely.
I think let's close off with quite a hot topic at the moment.
Oh gosh.
The SARB is obviously conducting a feasibility study on introducing a retail CBDC in South Africa, and critics argue that this probably reflects the central bank's fear of losing relevance amid the rising cryptocurrencies and private digital money. Your response to this, and whether or not a CBDC is a genuine solution, or simply fear of missing out.
Right, absolutely. So I'm going to tackle it from a really weird perspective. I've been at the IMF before joining the SARB again, the last four and a half years. And one of the drivers of our technical program was to look at CBDC technical assistance across 190 countries. At one stage, I had more than 100 countries looking at experimenting whilst at the IMF on CBDC, retail CBDC. Only very few have implemented, like the Bahamas, like Nigeria. only China, People's Bank of China, right, on the digital yuan. Most CBDC retail programs have slowly waned, right? In South Africa, it's no different. We explored on digital CBDC retail from a SARB perspective, and our conclusion was we would rather focus on faster payments. Okay? And the main differentiator is that a CBDC is the liability, like cash, of a central bank. If you put it in the market, even if it's distributed by banks, it's still a liability of the central bank. So commercial banks need a bloody good incentive to move from commercial bank money to central bank money. And so we thought, let's partner with the industry. Let's make faster payments the priority. And for now, we observe what's going on in the rest of the world quite closely on retail CBDC. The most likely player on retail CBDC, because they've publicly said it, in the world is going to be the digital euro. And they've not minced their words as to why they want to put a digital euro out there. They want to protect sovereignty. Okay? So my view is very simple. We need to stay focused for the next many years on PayShap, faster payments, bringing digital payments for all.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for your insights.
Excellent.